Ahoy, mateys! How you doing? Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, and welcome to Dreamy Dreamland with your skipper, Santiago Bob. And welcome to Dreamy Dreamland. Good morning, good afternoon, wherever you are, and don't believe anything this guy says. So here we are. Here it is, the 1st of July, and we're heading into the 4th, which is, I guess, Thursday. Since today, Monday, the 1st, Tuesday's the 2nd, 3rd. Amazing how that works out. And so here I am out in the deep green, and here it is, the deep green around me. And luckily, all of the cockroaches that were creeping in near me have either been gone to jail, mental institution, died, house exploded. So there's nobody around, and it's quiet again. And all the animals, I feel like Doctor Doolittle. They've all come to my little 2 acres and are hanging out there, and especially the birds. They are, from about 6 a.m. till about noon when it gets really hot, and they kind of go for the shade, are just singing away, right? And then from around 5 o'clock until around 9, they're singing away. So, because that's when the insects are out and they are just loving it, just eating them up. And the bats are there at night, and there's some during the earlier day. So it's all good. It's all happiness. And it's like, what do you call that place? Before our moron parents ate the apple. Garden of Eden. That's what it's like. So, but it's getting to be toasty. Uh, Yesterday, Saturday, I was doing errands, and I just had my arm on the side of the door there, and it barbecued my arm. I hadn't really sprayed it, and I mean, I sprayed it once, but I didn't keep spraying it. It's like deadly. The UV is. Watch out for the UV, guys. Watch out for that UV. It's deadly. So all the stuff that's going, the Donnie Trump thing, the Supreme Court's basically saying, "Oh, you now have a king. Forget being a president," because man, that boy gets in, he's going to just rearrange the bureaucracy of our country, and we won't have any. I mean, hardly, our like a good example is the FAA, right? It used to kind of look out for the people who are going to go ride on airplanes. Not anymore. Look at the 737 and the Max 77 and all the other things that Boeing, that NASA's Dreamliner or Space Liner, or whatever they call Star Cruiser or whatever they call that thing. It can't even leave its space dock. Um, they won't be able. They're not going to be able to go home on that thing. That's going to be a forever closet on the International Space Station. Is Boeing's capsule, because if they let that sucker go down, it's going to burn up like a really bad uh, marshmallow on the 4th of July. Like Uncle Larry's falling asleep with a bunch of marshmallows on the Barbie, and then they're just flaming up. They're just, it's gone past carbonism. Anyway, so how are you guys? What do you think, right? And our environmental, like I said, it's been in the 90s every day up here, and it's never. It was June. Now it's July 1st. Between June, it's like still spring here. It's like in the 70s. It snows in May. Well, it sure wasn't snowing in this May. You know, it was in the 80s this May, right? It was in the 80s in February. Now March, it was 60 degrees below zero, and so it was kind of interesting. Um, let's see. Let's see what the old internet has for us. Hmm. I just went through a bunch of doctor visits to try to get my. It's been 10 months. The bureaucracy just for repair because they can't make money on my orthopedic shoes. It's taken 10 months. I had to go to like a neurologist. I had to go to a bone doctor. I had to go to a physical therapist. All of those, and it cost me thousands of dollars, which I don't have. Which I just kind of I said, sure. I signed this thing, and then I said, good luck with that. And they go, so what do you? And I showed them my IRS form showing that I only make 7 grand a year. And the lady said, that's like 23,000 below poverty. I said, yep. And she goes, and so she like started clicking away, and she goes, she printed out this thing, just sign this. And I said, what? And she goes, it says blah 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 blah, and you live blah 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 blah, and blah blah blah. And I said, no, I'm not none of those blah blah blahs. I'm not going to lie on a federal form. No, no, sorry, not going. Oh, everyone does. I said, no, I'm not going to do it to support your illegal and corrupt institution. And she started to cry. And I said, "What's on it?" Well, it's 25 years ago, I graduated UNC with a master's in social work, and I wanted to help him. Oh, and now I'm a monster. I'm corrupt. Ah! And the only way you can kind of get away from that is if you just serve God's unconditional love and Jesus' unconditional forgiveness and Buddha's, um, perspective of the universe and Vishnu's glory of beauty, because they're all the same. There's this thing called, oh, you know, monotheism, right? What does that mean? Mono meaning uno, mano y mano, one. All that's all there is. Mono, that's it. There's nobody else, right? When it's mano y mano, it's like you kind of go up against yourself. So monotheism, and what is theism? You go back to Mesopotamian Sumar theism, theak, it means love, one love, right? So all of those guys and all those religions, all the predomos, all spoke of the one love. And so that's what you serve. You serve that one love. Our friends who love Mayor Baba. That's what Mayor Baba was all about. One love. If Jamie were to show up, he would tell you so, right? And so earlier on, I played a little bit of that lawyer talking about what the Supreme Court, basically put forth. And basically, what the Supreme Court said is that you now have a king, right? And what's really interesting, he said that the president can do whatever the frick he wants, right? And so, except if Donald Trump goes in and does whatever he wants, that's fine. That's what Supreme Court said and can't be brought under charges, right? But if let's say Joe Biden comes in and the and let's say the Congress or other entities start going after him, uh, it won't protect him. It's like the most bizarre thing. It's like the Rubik's cube of law, and that's not how law is supposed to be, right? It's supposed to be true. But when Jesus showed up, one reason why he got nailed to the cross was that he was saying that. He said, back in the day, before Moses, the Hebrew nation was all over the place and did whatever heck because there was no real laws, no real, God was just saying, "Hey, kind of kids, can't we just get along? Let's try to do our best." And they kill each other and throw stones at each other and really have a real nasty time, right? And it seems within the construct. See, it's not just a Hebrew or Jewish or even Zionist thing. It's a human thing, right? And that human thing is called ego. I mean, I knew Mayor Kahane. Really, I mean, he actually hung me out of a 13-story window in the South Bronx once, right? Because he was so pissed off because I made fun of him, right? And so him and his bully boys, my girlfriend who was Jewish and her parents who were super orthodox, but they were entertainers, so they was always up in the Borscht Belt, right? And so she was there with her two brothers. She was about 20 and I was about 19. And we met at NYU and we were both studying psychology and philosophy and theology, all the ologies, sociology. My favorite ology was anthropology, the science of old white guys trying to prove that they're superior to everybody else so they can steal their shit, right? Very Zionist. Anyway, so she was, she thought she was a, socialist, communist, whatever it is. And I said, no, you're not. You're just beautiful angel, you know. And she goes, oh, I love you. Let's have sex. That's all I had to say. You're a beautiful angel. Oh, I love you. Let's have sex. Right. And so she was really good because she basically, when she was 17, she fixed herself. Right. No pills, no coils, no. She just, you know, had it taken out. Not the fallopian tubes or whatever they tie them up or whatever they do to them. Allegedly, you could kind of bring them back, but she just didn't want to worry about anything. And then I told her about how the Catholics do it. It's called using a calendar. And she goes, that actually works. I said, oh, baby, does it ever? And the other thing is, when you are fertile, you discharge a little mucus down there. And if your boyfriend is between your legs, lapping it up like a good dog should, he will know that. And I was taught that one by Hallie. Hallie called Sally about the things she saw. Two big eyes and a woolly jaw. Woolly bully. Woolly bully. And Hallie, I was 17, 18, and she was 83. We were the first Harold and Maude. I mean, she was great. She was woolly bully, woolly bully. Got you. Anyway, don't believe a word he says. Woolly bully, woolly bully. So, when the old book says, begin of wars and rumors of wars and blah, blah, blah. Well, that's been going on forever. And we're doing a great job, Ukraine, the Strip, they're in Africa, across the middle part. There's about 10 countries that are on fire. All the ones that have resources are having civil wars and just, Sierra Leone is like, it is the Strip to the 10th power. In the Strip, they got about 2 million people dispossessed. In Sierra Leone, it's 18 million. And they are all about to starve to death. Bully, bully! And you can thank Wall Street for all of this, right? Go read Colonel. Oh, he was the most decorated American soldier in the First World War. He won two, um, you know, the highest awards you can get. Usually you're dead. They usually give it to you, and usually they wheel you in a wheelchair, and you're like, and they put the thing around your neck. But this guy won two of them, right? And he was a colonel. What's his name? And good old Prescott Bush and J.P. Morgan and Mr. Rockefeller and Henry Ford and a few other great Americans like those guys wanted him to be the poster boy because they were going to have a pooch against FDR. There were two of them, two illegal, kill the president, we take over, two, by the same guys. And FDR kept, trying to take them to court to do it the right way. Didn't work out so good. Go, what's her name? Who's the girl on MSNBC? The girl with the glasses and then she doesn't wear them. She was her number one girl, and now she has a podcast about this. That's quite, she is a pretty good historical investigator reporter. Otherwise, she's kind of a shill. She's pretty much everyone in the media wants that big check. So they'll lie, cheat, and steal as much as the next guy, just like all of our whatchamacallits, our politicians. Hey, scat. So you don't have to kill the insects. You just tell them, get out of here. And they usually go. They're pretty good. Woolly bully, woolly bully. Do. Hey, scat, go. Hey, I know you want to kiss me, but come on. Go. Woolly bully. Hey.
Videos calling his re-election both the most important moment in human history and that describe him as a divinely appointed ruler.
A shepherd to mankind who won't ever leave nor forsake them. So God made Trump.
He claims to be a holy warrior against an imaginary attack on Christianity.
They want to tear down crosses, but no one will be touching the cross of Christ under the Trump administration. I swear to you.
He's even selling his own version of the Bible.
We must make America pray again.
Trump is playing to a rising white Christian nationalist movement within the Republican Party.
I say it proudly. We should be Christian nationalists.
Christian nationalists believe that the law of the land is not the Constitution, but instead the law of God, as they interpret it. Trump supporters are increasingly overt in their calls to replace democracy with a MAGA theocracy.
The church is supposed to direct the government, and I'm tired of this separation of church and state junk.
We're meant to be a Christian nation. We should be a Christian nation.
Welcome to the end of democracy. We're here to overthrow it completely. We didn't get all the way there on January 6th, but we will endeavor to get rid of it and replace it with this right here.
That was a cross he was holding. The idea, the will of voters is irrelevant because God has anointed Trump, was a recurring message in the efforts to overturn the 2020 election.
Because it is not Joe Biden that rules this country. Jesus Christ is the king of everything in this world. Christ is king! Christ is king! Christ is king!
In previous videos, I've highlighted how MAGA Republicans have embraced core elements of fascism. The combination of fascism and Christian nationalism is called Christofascism, a term first used half a century ago by the theologian Dorothy Zola. Fascists rise to power by characterizing their opponents as subhuman. Christofascists take it a step further by casting opponents as not just subhuman, but actually demonic.
People like Nancy Pelosi, she's a demon.
Framing opponents as enemies of God makes violence against them not only seem justifiable, but divinely sanctioned and almost inevitable.
We are going to put on the armor of God. And maybe strap on a Glock on the side of a...
Strap it on. Strap that strap on. Come on, baby. Strap it on.
They need to be given the death penalty. And these people that are suppressing the name Christ and suppressing Christianity, they must be absolutely annihilated when we take
Jesus
power.
would love that. He really would.
Christofascists want to strip away a wide range of rights Americans take for granted. Former Trump staffers involved in developing plans for a second Trump term have called for imposing biblical tests on immigration, overturning marriage equality, and restricting contraception. And MAGA-aligned judges are already setting their dogma ahead of the Constitution. In his concurring opinion on the case that declared frozen embryos are people, Alabama Supreme Court Chief Justice Tom Parker cited God more than 40 times and quoted the book of Genesis and other religious texts. Nothing could be more un-American than the Christian nationalist vision. So many of America's founders came here as refugees seeking religious freedom. The framers of the Constitution were adamant
First Amendment.
that religion had no role in our government. The words God, Jesus, and Christ don't appear anywhere in the Constitution. And the very first words of the Bill of Rights are a promise that, quote, Congress shall make no law respecting an establishment of religion or prohibiting the free exercise thereof. Christofascism, or any religion-based form of government, is a rejection of everything America has aspired to be.
Oh, yeah, baby.
A secular, multiracial society whose inhabitants have come from everywhere, bound together by a faith in equal opportunity, democracy, and the rule of law. Beware.
Beware. So, yes, he said it pretty good. I couldn't have said it better.
What you did last night when I spent 90 minutes on a stage debating a guy who has the morals of an alley cat. My guess, he said, I mean it sincerely, a new record for the most lies told in a single debate. When I thought about his 34 felony convictions, his sexual assault on a woman in a public place, his being fined $400 million for business fraud, I thought to myself, Donald Trump isn't just a convicted felon. Donald Trump is a one-man crime wave. Folks, I don't walk as easy as I used to. I don't speak as smoothly as I used to. I don't debate as well as I used to. But I know what I do know. I know how to tell the truth. And I know how to do this job. I know how to get things done. I know, like millions of Americans know, when you get knocked down, you get back up.
Go, Joe, go. The problem with Joe is that Joe is the same as Donald Trump. They're both poster boys for the crypto-fascist reality of the founder. The Star Trek scene, I mean, that's where we're heading. Whoops, sound off. No, my thumb was over the. Well, I'm sorry about that. My thumb was. How's the sound now? Sound better? Sound off? No, I had my thumb on the little dot. That's the speaker over there. Sound off? I can't hear you. Let's see. How about now? Can you hear me now? Can your boys hear me now? Can you hear me now? Let's see. Okay. So I'll be good. I'll just put it back over here. I won't touch it again. Okay. I won't touch it again. I promise. See, I know nothing about any of this. Yes. Okay. Good. Everything's good. So, good. Yes, you can hear me. So Joe Biden and Donald Trump, same thing. You're going to get the same thing there. The earlier Today show, I played a bit from George Carlin, right? Go look at all his stuff on the YouTube, and you get a good idea what's going on. And how much juice do I have left? Nope, no, all good. I got a good half hour left, right? So what time is it? Yeah, good. Oh, 4:44. I love it when that happens. What really needs to be, it's like me, so I'm out in the middle of here. I died in 2014 for the 7th time. And when I came back, they were rolling me into an operating room where they were going to cut up my legs and cut up 20 feet of my large intestine and make me shit through a ileostomy bag for the rest of my life and crack my chest and do a quadruple bypass. And I had the fentanyl in my arm, and they had the doctor who keeps you alive when you're in the operating room, but basically kills you. And I sat straight up like Chatty Cathy and said, "What? Where am I? What's going on here?" And everyone freaked out. One person shit their pants, ran away. The nurse fainted, and the doctor was the only cool cucumber. He said, "This can't be happening. This can't be happening. This can't be happening." So what can't be happening? You can't sit up and talk to me. You got more fentanyl in you than you should be dead. But you're keeping you alive, and you're about to go into operating. You know, it's the door is right there. And I said, "Fuck that shit. Where am I? Put me in that ICU." Right? I said, "If you touch me, I will sue the shit out of you." See that guy over there? That's my lawyer. Well, I said, "He's not my lawyer. He is the Perry Mason of ambulance chasers. He will own your children. Put me back in there." And so he rolled me back in, and the surgeon came out, or no, the doctor, not the surgeon. That was a whole nother guy. The doctor tried to say, "But you're going to die. You're going to die." I said, "Good, let me die." And my client said, "Al, you're supposed to be in the operating room. They said they could cure you." I said, "What, cut my legs off? Give me an ileostomy bag? Open my chest? No way. I'd be dead in a week." "No, what I need is you taking me down, get me an ambulance, put me down into the Keys. I need a colonic therapist. I need endocrinologist. I need a acupuncturist. I need a Chinese doctor. I gave him a whole list. He went off and got all those people. They worked on me for 3 weeks, and they dragged me back from death's door. And then I did the thing he wanted me to do. I negotiated settlement. And then, as a nice guy, because he thought he'd need me again, he sent me back down to his palatial estate in the Keys and let those guys bring me further back. And within less than 2 months, I lost 60 pounds or so, and changed my whole endocrine system and changed my body completely. And from that point on, I said, "That's it." And I finished up with whatever clients I had, and I basically got rid of everything. Sold the school to Johnny Boy, and did a whole, just got rid of everything. Knocked myself down to zip. And that's where I'm at now. Right. And so I went to this neurologist who, because I still don't have my, orthopedic shoes that I got every year for 5 years, but the doctor, they can't make a lot of money on it, so he's not going to give them to me. So, he said, "Well, you got to go see this doctor. You got to go see that doctor." And basically, I got all those guys to scream at him, so I'm going to get my shoes in a day or so. So, Jamie, you're back. So what do you think? I was talking about monotheism, and that if you take the roots all the way back, it means one love, right? What does your man say about that? I'm going to pick this up and not touch the microphone. Ramada, David. Oh, there were a lot of people there. They were all covered up. Let's see. David M. Where's America going? Well, America doesn't exist. We're a corporate fascist oligarchy, and we're about to have nuclear war, and it'll kill about 1 billion people. Not everybody, but enough to scare the shit out of everyone to go and join the Federation, right? I mean, after World War I, that wasn't scary enough. We tried to have the League of Nations, didn't work. World War II, that was even way scarier. We killed like 20 times more people, and that still didn't work. There is no such as, we really have to, we've tried to pretend we have this thing called the rule of law. We don't. I mean, just look what's happened on in the Strip, what's happened on in, Sierra Leone, what's happening in Yugoslavia, Ukraine. Look what we did to Yugoslavia. We blew the shit of it. Good old Billy. Okay, now, yes. Hey, every day. There's fish. Hey, let's see. David, where you at? It's all one. Yep. Even one Beatles God. Yep, yep. Pretty much. Yep. There's only one God, right? And it's everybody's God. It's not just the Baptist God or the Jewish God or the Muslim God or it's every that's everybody's God. And you talk to any great spiritual entity or person or character who belongs to any of these theologies, they'll tell you the same thing. Joseph Campbell, he told me that all the time. There's only one God. The love of God by humans. Remember, Rhonda, put it in capitals. I don't know my glasses. Humans for God. We are that right. God. See, the thing is humans. They talk about the three. Father, Son, Holy Ghost. Right. Well, that's us. We have three entities inside of us, and the nastiest part of us is our ego. Love is the key. Yep. So that thing that animates us is God's unconditional love as prana, that light, it's photonic light rather than incandescent, right? Incandescence will set you on fire. Right now the UV is off the chart. I mean, everybody I know who works outside, and they all look like burnt hot dogs. They're red with black spots, and they're looking. I have a friend. She's how old she is, 50 something, but she had to mow her lawn, and I said, "Man, baby, do it. Early in the morning from 7 to 5. Do it." I said, "No, if you're going to do your lawn, do it at 7 before the sun." She did it. She started at noon, and she, within an hour, and then the next couple of days, she looked like she was 85. I got her a hat. I got her a shawl that keeps you from the UV getting at you, and I gave her sunblock. She used any of it. Yeah, love is the key. So, bottom line, all of this material crap, everything, it doesn't matter. So I had a shitload of it. I made a lot of money. Lots of different times, not just once, but lots of different times. And each time I kind of got to a point, I'm tired of this, and went off and did something else with all that money. And I even invested. I bought real estate. I did all kinds of stuff and made more money, and then did other stuff and made more money, and then didn't do anything and used up all that money. And after 2014, and I died and I came back, I said, "That's it. I'm living the life of the monk, right?" And so, and that doesn't mean you don't have sex. It doesn't mean you don't go to a nice restaurant. It doesn't mean any of those things. It means you do not get emotionally involved in that you need that. I gotta have that. Have to have that house. Have to have that car. I mean, a car for almost a year, until I got tired of driving me everywhere. And they loved driving me everywhere when we were driving because we would talk and I'd tell them stories and I would get them to talk to me about stuff they never talked about. And then they felt really great about doing that and their life changed. So they were all good about that, except when they weren't talking to me and didn't feel great about it when they thought, like the 3 or 4 days before, well, I have to, but I got to take you out to the doctors. It's like, really? So they got me a car. So now I don't, talk to them as much, but I show up to their house and talk to them. And now I have a car, I can do that. Right? Lack of sun, chemtrails, no summer here in Ireland. Yes, I mean, we have to realize that our whole weather is being controlled and has been for a long, long, long time, right? And our technology base is like 1,000, if not 10,000 years ahead. We already have, when they were first putting Star Trek on the TV in '66, they already had that shit. They already had, solar warden, when people were, in the 50s saying, I saw this flying saucer, but it looked like a cigar. What is that cigar? What that cigar was? Well, during World War II, we totally mass-produced submarines, right? To the point where we had more shit than we knew what to do with. So we gave it to people like North Korea and China and Russia so they could start, you know what I mean? It's called having a loyal opposition. Iran, they were our best buddies forever. The first people to give the United States, when we had our revolution in 1776, the first people who said, hey, you guys, cool, we acknowledge you, was Iran. Just like Ireland and Spain and somebody else acknowledged the Strip as a separate country. Anyway, and this whole thing, the neocons of Israel, every neocon is there to destroy themselves. Like I said, the greatest person, you want to see a physical representation of this, is a guy named Meir Kahane. Go Google Meir Kahane. See who that guy. He came from the United States, right? He was like just so up. Like I said, he hung me out. His bully boys hung me out the window because I was making fun of him, made him cry. And I didn't say anything, anti-Semitic, because at the time I was, going to a rabbi school. I was in a Lubavitcher, with the number 2 head rabbi in the United States. The guy had some real, he got me into his rabbi school. When he said, you have to come study with me to Lubavitcher, you need to be a rabbi. And I said, Rabbi, come on, I'm Irish, German, Italian, I'm a Roman Catholic. My godfather's a cardinal. He goes, well, no one's perfect. So I would go to real Jewish events, and Meir Kahane would give these speeches, and I would just stand up to him and not like, give him raspberries, but like say, what are you talking about? What about blah, 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 blah? What are you, get him where it hurt, like where he could, don't talk to, until the point they came and smashed down my girlfriend's door and hung me out the window. And I kept still cracking jokes because I knew it was going to end very good. So, about a year or two later, he had to go to Israel, and they themselves called him a bad dude. But after he, his essence metastasized as the neo Zionists, right? The guys who were in Bibi's war party. And this ain't going to turn out good, for Israel, because even though the majority of the Israeli folk are drinking the Kool-Aid, at a certain point, and a good example of this was what happened last summer when they tried to have their version of what's going to happen here. They got rid of the last remnants of non-theistic politics. Bibi tried to cut it out, and the people rose up, right? And that's why this war happened, to put them in their place, right? And he can't win this war, and it's just going to get bigger to the point where he's going to use nukes, right? And that's going to kick it off. Then that whole area is going to go up in flames, right? Which is good for Mr. Globaloni, right? And it's good for America, because then we will be us and the North Sea will be the singular fuel source for Europe and, the white Anglo-Saxon industrial race. And so, and that's, happening, before this election, right? And the other thing that's going to happen, we are arming the Ukraine with weapons that can really hurt Russia. For the last 2 years, not really, And what has that done? That is, cost the lives of probably close to 300,000 Ukrainians and probably somewhere between 200 and 500,000 Russians, and all pretty much young folk, right? The median age in the Ukraine army now is 45. So we are about to arm them with about 300 F-16s, right? That can be kept anywhere, any place there's a straight road these F-16s can take off of, right? And so they can be trucked to a spot and it take off, right? And they have the crews to maintain them. And what most people in America don't know, we have people on the boots on the ground in Ukraine. And there are other folks. The French are there, and so the Germans and a few others are there. And so it's very close to a NATO Russia war with nukes, right? And Vlad said, okay, so all our, nuclear laws that we had, these great things that kept us from blowing each other up for the last 30 years, well, they're gone. Donald Trump got rid of them. So we are going to build those nasty weapons we all got rid of. And we're going to have them. And not only are we going to have them, we're going to give them to all our buddies, right? Now, so it won't be a full on, Armageddon kind of nuclear war, but it won't be a nice day, right? Like I said, somewhere between, 0.8 billion and 2 billion people will die, right? And not just all on one moment with the big mushroom cloud, but, die from, them being hurt and having no, it'll be a larger version of the Gaza Strip, but really way worse. And it'll blow gigantic holes in our ozone layer. So if you're in any of the neck of the woods where those things went off, man, that's it for you. You will, and nothing will grow there either. So the majority of people are going to die of that, 0.8 to 2 billion people will basically starve to death and die a hideous radiation death. And the other, 4 to 6 billion who will be left, there will be maybe 12 million people who will be rich and have their own little underground silo, and they will be like, if you ever saw the movie Time Machine, right? And then they found the orcs or whoever, those people who were underground who were eating the good-looking survivors. So that's the world we're looking at. Now, that doesn't mean it's going to happen, because I don't know if you've been noticing this, but I have. You know how in Star Trek, the one that J.J. Abrams did, the first one, where they had a little time dilation and things kind of changed a bit, so James Kirk's dad dies and a bunch of other things happen and da 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 da. Well, that's, if I don't think you've noticed this, but it's been going on, right? And I showed some guys nice little video he did about time travel, and he made this box that was the 1 minute time machine. And so, he met this girl, he really loves her, he's checking her out, and he tries to, go flirt with her, and not going to have it. And he keeps making mistakes. So he invents this 1 minute time machine. So he gets to know as much as he can about her without getting arrested. And he sits down at a park bench and he smiles, she smiles, and he says a few things that he knows she's going to like to hear. So so they have a nice little conversation. He says something, makes a mistake, and he hits the box, bing, and he starts over from there, from a minute before the mistake. And so he gets past that point, and bing, and he's doing really, he's hit the button about 10 different times now, but he's nibbling away at her, and he's up to the point where she wants to go home and just rock his world, because he's getting all the right answers to her. And so he realizes she's a physicist like he is, and so they start talking about time this and time dilation and blah blah blah. And she goes, but it's scary because if you change one little thing, you got a different thing. So that path that you were on, you probably will die. There'll be a new you kind of moving forward. And then you go back and you see every time he hits the button, he dies, and it lands in her lap, and she like loses her mind and blah blah blah. And there's like a little bit, it's like heartburn. There's a little bit, so every time he does it, there's a little residual wiggle in the experience. And I don't know if any of you have been watching or experiencing the residual wiggles, but me, your Sensei Al Bob, I have many, many, many skill sets, right? And one of them is I'm very, very observant. And I've been saying, oh, look at this. So, what do we see? We are right. Something of God, a drop of orgasm, love. Love is the key. Anyone notice the lack of sun, chemtrails, no summer here in Ireland? Oh man, we are having, we started summer like a month and a half early, right? And everyone is getting burnt to a crisp. Like I said, all these friends who work outdoors, guys who are contractors, the sunscreen. None of them will do it. Oh, I don't need that. I mean, there's one guy who's totally racist. He looks like a black guy. I pulled him in front of him. I dragged him into the men's room and said, look in the mirror, buddy. You look like, Malcolm X. Weapons. I mean, that's what took down the World Trade Center. They took that video that you can't find anywhere else over and over and over again, showing the World Trade Center coming down like a waterfall of dust. The only way you get that, you can't get that with a controlled demolition or with a fire, weakening one floor and they all come down. No, go read, these guys got it all down because they are architects and scientists, engineers. And what did they go? What did George W.'s investigation? What was his scientific base? They had national laboratories. Use them? No, they used the laboratory of science of materials handling of BUL laboratories. They use them? No. Did they use the other big laboratory they have of times and measurements? No. But they, who their technological go-to guys were popular mechanics, not even popular science, popular mechanics, guys who tell you how to change your oil. Makes people and feral. Yep, despondent and feral, negative. Yep, and so yeah, I get the same thing, but as soon as I kind of have that, I go, nope, 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 not going there. I love Jesus. I'm God's slave. I'm all about unconditional love. Sorry, not going to do that. Yes, you can spray me as you want. You can zap me as much as you want, but not doing it. Right? And that's the challenge. Yes, exactly. And that's why, so I was at this doctor describing my life and he goes, how do you live? And so he was a good neurologist. He had all the toys that I had in the 1960s when I was working for Dr. Bitterman, the Operation Paperclip Nazis that were at Duke, and we were trying to build the super soldier, and they found me, and I was playing around with 0 point energy and sensory deprivation. Yeah, I built these great chambers. It was this Russian scientist. I ran a video about him maybe 6 months ago, and he was this brilliant physicist. And Stalin locked him in, solitude, and they forgot he was down there in the basement. So he was down there for about 2 years, and they didn't kill him because Stalin, thought maybe one day we might need him again. Anyway, so what's this guy do? He invents not only 0 point energy, but a shamanic tool that is kind of like a toothpaste tube, right? Now, I was making these big bathtubs, tanks. They weren't bathtubs, they were like tanks, big, meaning they were so big, they were about the size of a room. They're about, 900 square foot tank, right? And I had, those things, that absorbs sound, so there was no sound there, nothing. You heard nothing. Anaconda material. It's like a foamy stuff that you cut in different shapes, and you glue it to the ceiling, and it absorbs every frequency of sound. You don't hear, and you can't even hear your heartbeat, right? When you can't hear your heartbeat, you are really unplugged, right? And I put a Faraday coil, a Faraday cage around everything, so they weren't even being, you know, feeling any electromagnetics or gravity. I mean, gravity was kind of working on them. They were like, but they were floating. They were floating on the salt water. They were naked. They were floating on a thing. And what we had these little devices that were basically scalar devices that were right on different shock nervous system nodes, right? And we could, using scalar waves, not electromagnetic waves, onto these nerve endings and chakras. And boy, did that ever! And this tube we had them in, because of its mathematical shape and what it did to their energetic energy, was a time machine. And they were like, oh, no place. So they were the human version of, the looking glass, which was an ancient device. Why did George H. go into Iraq, right? Why? There's no reason. It wasn't because of, what the place at Kuwait was part of Iraq in like the early 60s, right? And they just kind of squeezed it off so this other oil company could have it to itself. So, when and Saddam was on our payroll. He was one of our. We put him in power, just like we put the Shah in power, right? And just like we put the Ayatollah Khomeini in power. We kept him in France for 30 years, just as to show the Shah that, hey, if you don't do what we do, we're going to bring this crazy whack job in, right? So it's pretty much a scripted play, and yet it's kind of neutral plateau. Yes. So it's a really interesting point in time and space, and not that we haven't been here before, but we have. But it's up to you individuals, you three of you there, to basically, be your best. Okay, I got another 20 minutes, give or take. So let's throw up some. So James, tell us the neutral plateau. Give us a thumbnail of that, so we can jump in. Now, the other side of the question, when you say no summer here in Ireland, is the summer is the no summer in Ireland still sunny? Because man, I loved Ireland when it was like 50, 60 degrees and sunny. That was fine by me, Didn't have to be 80. I mean, 80 in Ireland to me was like an anathema, How about anybody else? Anybody else have David, what negative views? What are we talking about negative views? What are you saying? Musk. Oh yeah, well, he could do that. He's got enough satellites up there to do anything. I think someone's going to set off over America a EMP, right? And then everything will, not work. Your car won't start. There will be no electricity. Your phone doesn't work. Nothing. Zip, zilch, right? How do you think Americans will deal with that one, right? And it'll go into total chaos. And, Musk will land on the front lawn of the UN in New York City, and he'll be wearing a black uniform, right? Something out of Star Wars or any, dystopian movie you've ever seen. And he said, I'm your new fearless leader. And with the push of this little button in my hand, everything will work again. Right? But from that point on, I'm going to give everyone one of these things. See, the X is on there. This is the new. This is it. This is your money. This is your cell phone. This is your everything. This thing will heal you if you're sick. Right? Take care of you if someone, this will be everything for you, right? But you got to do what I say. Real simple. You can still do whatever you want. You still go to watch, there'll still be wrestling, there'll still be baseball games, there'll still be Las Vegas, there'll still be nothing will change except this, right? So you got this in your pocket. You want to go someplace, you hit the thing, boom, the Uber, but it'll be called the Xber, right? And it'll be there, take you to wherever you want, not just, down the street, Paris, anywhere, right? Or Mars. We're already on Mars, and you can buy, a nice little condo up there for the summertime. What do you think? Still a mutual plateau. Come on, let's have a little more response here, kid. There's 3 of you there, and there's more back there too. So. And that's the challenge. The challenge is not to take the device, right? That's why I put up so many shows up there. That's why I'm saying, hey, guys, try to put them on thumb drives or CD-ROMs or something. The older the technology, the better, right? Except maybe don't go to magnetic tape. That's too vulnerable. But CD-ROM, not bad. Anyway. Let's see what else. Until you guys start saying something, let's see what else I can find here. Library. Oh, here we are in the library. But if Donald wins, he's going to be our king for a while. And it'll be kind of, you know what it'll be like? Go watch Whoopi at Firepoint. That's the first episode of Next Generation, right? When the new ship is there and John Luke's the new captain and everyone's getting to meet each other and Data is like Pinocchio. And anyway, so they show up at this place on the edge, this new semi group that's going to join the Federation, but they haven't quite yet because they're, it's just like joining the EU, right? And so everyone, and they're very nice and they're good contractors and they can build stuff and what they're building it out is sentient beings that they capture and they turn it into a mall or a strip or a skyscraper, right? Or a football stadium, right? But it's a creature, right? With a sentient spirit, right? And so they come there and there's something wrong. They don't know what's wrong. And all of a sudden, they're trying to figure it out and they're zipped across the galaxies into, like 18 zillion light years from where they were to a place they've never been. Nobody has been. And that's where they meet Q, right? Who kind of gives them the, right, blah, blah, blah. And he says, you guys are children out here playing with fire. You don't know what you're doing. Go back home. And, of course, John Luke and everybody else says, well, we're the Federation. We got all these rules and laws, just like we have, right? Like we have, law-based, we're good. We're the white hats. Anyway, but we are, having the guy, our subcontractor like Israel, turn a sentient creature like the Palestinians into a, shopping mall, So, And that was in 1980, whatever, or 90 or whatever that was. And so they get zipped, and John Luke gets taken out of the ship and put on trial. And this is the best scene of probably any Star Trek at all. There's Q dressed in this thing from the 19th century up to the 22nd century look of being a judge. And the police are all midgets with genetically engineered machine guns as hands. And everyone else is like something straight out of the Hunger Games, that are living in Denver. And that was, 30 years before any of that. And that's where we're headed with Donald Trump as president. He'll be king. He'll make himself king. Right? He'll only put his buddies in every lynch point of power. He'll get rid of all the institutions. He's already sacked pretty much everyone out of the Supreme Court. The three that are left, were the dissenting folks, he'll find them guilty, and he'll bring back the guillotine. Dollars to donuts, he's bringing back, because people will love to watch that on TV, and they will shoot a drug into your head. So soon as your head will roll down this thing like a marble, and you'll be able to talk. Well, boom, 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 and your head is rolling down this thing, and it goes into the basket, and you got about 3 minutes to say something before you're gone. That will be the highest rating TV show known to the universe, and it'll be sold to other planetary systems. They'll love it. The Time Tunnel. Oh yes, that was one of my favorites. That was a special period of TV. There was Land of the Giants, Time Tunnel, Lost in Space, Twilight Zone. What was the other one on ABC? Oh, there was one, The Invaders, and there was what was the other one? Outer Limits. There were a few others too that were really, but Time Tunnel was really good. And so was Land of the Giants. That was, and that was when Stan Lee was doing his best work in comics, right? And from about 1949 until Marvel and movies, he just kept knocking it out of the park. But he is the loyal opposition, meaning the power structure needs to have that represented, so the people can see what it is. So when it comes around in its form, they'll go, "Oh, I saw that in a Marvel comic strip." Hail Hydra. That's where we're at, kids. Anyway, what are you guys saying here? You've written a few things. Billion and Time Lords. Doctor Who, yes. When I was in Australia, they had Doctor Who on 5 times a day. It was 1978, right? And basically, people started calling me the doctor because, I was like adjusting everyone and, taking away their headaches and doing that kind of fun stuff, right? Because that's part of a circus. Everyone was like, and none of these people knew what they were doing. So, they were trying to do, high wire and so they were like dislocating everything they could think of. I think I have a whole series on DVD. You are lucky person there, Rhonda. But who's the guy? The third to the last, before the old guy. That guy. That was kind of me. The old guy is kind of me too, right? I see myself as those two characters. The other one's not so much. Except maybe back in the 60s, the guy who always wore the funny clothes and the funny hats, that guy. But I got to a place where they had to make a decision that I wasn't like Doctor Who. So, because I had so many different, skill sets, I was known as the double doctor. And a buddy of mine who, I met on from the show, who came on, again, anybody wants to talk to me, the dudeawake42 at Gmail, dudeawake42 at Gmail, right? I still have my whatchamacallit, but I never even look at it anymore because I'm not doing this for the chump change I used to get from you guys. I'm doing this because God keeps saying, keep doing this. Okay. I keep doing it. Never heard of the time tunnel? Oh, go check that one out. In a lot of ways, because it's made in the 60s, late 60s, early 70s, it's because basically there was a time tunnel. That if you read any of the books, the Montauk Project, by what's his name? And those guys, I knew those guys. Al Bielek, Duncan, what's his name? Preston Nichols. Who else? So about three other, about 8 of us. And we were in this little research crew that an offshoot of DARPA ran. And our handler was this really hot babe named Jessie Winchester. Really. And she wore a skirt almost up to her hoo-hoo and no underpants. Always quick access. And she never really, I don't know what she did to anybody, but she was always tantalizing. But I mean, that was it, the promise of the tantalization. And, she'd wear these silk shirts and she'd have this buckskin vest, and she always had guns. She was very close to guns or big knives and swords. And our laboratory was a big, fancy, schmancy condo right across the street from Lincoln Center. It was like mind-boggling. And we were fooling around with stuff. And we would be given stuff that no one knew what it was. Like we were once delivered this crate, right? And no one knew how to open the crate. So that was our first thing, open the crate. And we opened the crate, and it was like that thing there was a sci-fi movie about these guys contacting this scientist who worked at, like Los Alamos or something. And they were saying, we've been on your planet for a long time. We've been watching you. And we've been trying to keep you out of the fray of all the wars that are all around you because you guys are basically children. But that's going to end relatively soon because the bad guys are showing up, and we're coming out of the closet, and we're going to. So they sent them this crate, right, with these instructions that were like on, tin foil and strange language. So they decipher the instructions very much like Contact, right? When they got the instructions from the thing they received, and it was on the sideband of the static, and it was a video thing of Adolf Hitler at the 36 Olympics. All of this stuff is real. This shit happened and happens, and it's still happening. And if you meditate and open your mind and view, you don't need looking glass. You got one right underneath your eyelids where you dream, your imaginary mirror. When you close your eyes and you dream, you can see that's where your Akashic records are, right? That's why I tell people, when you wake up and you had that dream, wow, what was that dream about? Grab your phone, hit the record button, and just go, wow, I just had this dream about, and just unreel it. Just let the tape go and go right on the record of your phone. Then you go back at your own leisure and play it back, and you take notes. And you didn't take notes in school to remember shit. We don't forget anything. It's getting it back from the database that's tough. But if you train yourself, take the Evelyn Wood mind control course, just like the Evelyn Wood speed reading course. And once I learned how to do that, I mean, I could read a 400-page book in 15 minutes and tell you what was on every page. That's not fun. It's not, you're not really savoring it like a good glass of wine, but sometimes you got to read shit that way. Anyway, so you put the dream down on your phone, play it back, and you take notes. You write it down. In school, you took notes not to remember, but to understand. And you'll go, whoa, that's why that happened. Whoa. So if you tell yourself, hey, I want to see my Akashic records. I want, when I go to sleep, I want to be conscious and I want to go to my imaginary mirror and walk through it into my Akashic record. And right on the left is my Akashic record, and to the right is the 9 doors, and that's go look up the 9 doors. Esoteric 9 doors, occult 9 doors, and those 2 words, esoteric, occult, they don't mean anything other than unknown information and hidden information, right? So, Lost in Space, Robbie the Robot. Yeah, that Robbie the Robot, that came from because in Lost in Space, he wasn't Robbie. Robbie the Robot came from the movie. What was that? It was what was the first book we ever found? Gilgamesh. The story of Gilgamesh, and then Shakespeare did Prosperous, right? And Lost Forbidden Planet. That was the movie. Forbidden Planet, 1950s. That was the Star Wars of its day, 1950s. Go look at that one. Lost, Forbidden Planet, and that's where Robbie the Robot was, right? And he was he was a real robot, not a guy inside there, right? So, but he rode around on wheels, and he could move his arms a little bit. But that showed that they were pretty close to it already in the 40s. So, Forbidden Planet, right? And so this lost civilization made a device, 80 zillion miles of clustering relays, right? That all they had to do is think of what they wanted, and it happened. And they were so evolved, they thought they were so superior, and they got rid of war and anger and fear and all that stuff, but they forgot about their id. What's their id? You'll have your conscious mind, your subconscious mind, and your id. Your id is a little reptile back there in your cerebral cortex. That is all. And whenever something happens and you think, I'm going to kill that mother, I'm going to get a knife, I'm going to shoot him, that is your id. You got to watch out for that. So when you have a machine where you can imagine anything and it'll happen, you'll have pretty nice. So they wiped out this whole gigantic civilization like overnight. Everyone's asleep, having these nightmares, and they killed each other, right? Forbidden Planet. Yep. Monsters from the id. Yep. Exactamon. So all this is real, and we're going through it all the time, and that's why this little jitter happens, because we wipe out the whole civilization. See, it just happened right there. And then we're back to where we were. It's just like the guy with the 1 minute time machine. Every time he hits that button, he's dead. But the next one keeps on going. So when Tesla invented teleportation, that's what happened. He teleported from here, from Nevada to Chicago. Well, they found the dead Nikola there in the machine, and he was in Chicago. So, he was a strange guy, The Krell, that's a right. Oh, my Krell. Yep. And so Morbius, and that's where Morbius first came from. Not from the movie. Morbius was that doctor. The poor Krell. Yep. So anyway, so that's where we're at, gang. And so it's a very interesting time to be here, right? And see, my experience of my last, 73 and a half years is that I remember pretty much everything. And I remember all of the times when I died, and then I came back. I remembered all the times where everything kind of jittered and thing were like, I think they call it the, who's the guy who was in prison in South Africa and then he became president? Mandela. They call it the Mandela effect, right? Because he was in jail, right? Never to get out, and then he became president. That was like, whoops, what happened here? How'd that happen? And I'll give you a story about that. And I think I might have. Yeah, no, we're not quite in the red zone, so I can give you the story. Nelson. Yep. So back in the day before I died in 14, so it probably was maybe 2013, 2014. It's after 2012. Might have been 2012. No, it wasn't. It was 2013. And I was coming back from a project, right? And I was coming, I came up 77 and got on 81. And right there was a Kroger's. And so I jumped off. I got all the food because I hadn't been at home for a week or so, and maybe two. And I turned everything, whenever I would leave, I turned everything off, make sure there was nothing that could rot. And I'd leave the house, close it up, turn off the electricity, shut off the water, all the above. I mean, as soon as I turn out the electricity, the water would stop. The well wouldn't pull any water. Anyway, so I'm coming back. I get some food and I fill the tank up. Just fill it up, and I only have about 40 miles to go, and it's about 8:30 when I stop at a Kroger's. I go down and I stop at this Italian restaurant. I know that's pretty good. Have a nice dinner, a little glass of wine, and take off home. I get home around 11. I, go pull in, open the thing, hit the electricity, everything comes on. There are no leaks, everything's fine. I go up, I fall asleep. Right. Next day, I kind of clean the house a little bit. I go up to one of my sacred little spots that I showed John. All these great sacred spots up at the school is never, ever, ever utilize them. I put him there, got him to meditate, show him the energy. I brought him to the cave that's about this big, but you go into state, you go in, and it goes on forever. Anyway, and that's what that school is about, all of that, and not that building, or not what John did to that building. It was nice that John did that because he kind of physically fixed things like the roof and a few other things that need to be fixing, and that was good. The building will last another 20, 30 years. It's nice. But anyway, he didn't, the universe wanted John to understand what the school was so it could help him heal himself. He hasn't. He's just dug the hole deeper. So anyway, I come home so next morning I get up and clean up the house. I go and meditate, go to the different prayer temples up there, and enjoy that day. Make myself a nice dinner, sit on the upper deck. It's a beautiful night. Everything's fine. I again, another day goes by. I kind of start looking through some stuff and thinking about what my next project is. Write a little bit on my laptop and make another nice dinner and go to sleep. So fourth day, right? I say, well, I should go downtown, go see some, because I hadn't really called anyone, hadn't told anybody I'm in town. I'm just enjoying the privacy that there's nobody there. Yeah. So there's nobody. The guy who's usually in the place down closest to me, there was nobody there, so it's quiet. There's no partying, drinking, blah blah blah. Because that space, the hill was like a lapdog. It would help you do whatever you wanted it to do. I mean, if you wanted to be drunk and a drug addict, it would make you a drunk and a drug addict. What time to live and remember? My memory is yeah, okay. Magic mushrooms. See, drugs, I never really needed drugs. I mean, I tried them out. I'm an Aquarian. I try everything out. But the only thing I ever really got into was nitrous oxide. Cocaine couldn't stand this stuff. Pretty much anything else. You know, when, what's his name? Cary Grant gave me some, not mushrooms, but, LSD kind of psilocybin. That was good stuff. I like getting high with Cary Grant. And when Cary and I were hanging out, he wasn't Cary Grant. He was Archie. He was loads of fun. And he was like 80 years old then. And his wife was like, she was hot. And it was so much fun to be with them. And they had kids that were like, 4 to 7, and they would be running around and having a great old time. And I think that was when he was his happiest. Rhonda, you're hanging, you're splitting. Later, anybody who wants to get hold of me, the dude awake 42 at Gmail. Okay. And leave your phone number if you're in America. I'll give you a call. Anyway, so fourth day, I said, well, I'm going to go down and see what's going on downtown. So I get in my car and I drive down there, and there's like no one on the road. I mean, it's like a Twilight Zone. I mean, this, Roanoke, Virginia is a pretty busy little town. There's nobody on the friggin' road. I mean, there's a few cars here and there are a lot of cop cars too. I have no idea what the practice going on. And then I kind of pull into the Kroger's because I'm going to get a few other things I didn't get, and it's like the end of the world. Everyone's in there, clamoring and trying to, and the cops are there big time with riot gear and guns. And I go, what the heck? And I walk up to the front door, and there's this police sergeant I know pretty well. I go, what is going on here? And he says, where you been, Al? I said, well, not here. What's going on? He goes, well, there's been the pipeline of gasoline that feeds gas into this neck of the woods. There's a hurricane, and it's run dry. Normally, they don't let they basically fill the pipeline up with gas, and they top off all of the tanks, and that's enough gasoline to last a month. But this hurricane came through Texas, and they let everything go dry before the hurricane even showed up. So the refineries went offline for about a week or two, and there was nothing in the pipeline or in the tanks. So Roanoke was without gasoline for a long time, like almost a month. And the trucks food weren't showing up. There was electricity, but the trucks weren't showing up. And so, it's like, well, okay, because I, filled my tank up. I still had, 98% my tank full up. So I decided, well, screw this. I got enough food. I'm not even going to deal with this. I said, so have they gotten the gas flowing? Oh, yeah, but we'll still have a few days of this chaos. I said, okay, see you when it's not chaos. And I drove back home, sat there, rolled myself one, had a cup of tea, and let a week go by and came down, and it was like back to normal, right? No one said anything. And a year goes by, and no one says anything about this. And I seem to find it strange. And so I start asking people, so do you remember when the gasoline wasn't around, and for a month Roanoke had no food and no nothing? I don't remember that. Right. Anyway, so I asked a bunch of people, and nobody remembered it. And then one day I was at a meeting, a community meeting, and it was at the county library. And whenever an event like that, the police actually, by law, have somebody there, right? Just a policeman to, like, if they need somebody to, hey, be out there in the traffic or whatever. If a big crowd shows up, whatever, right? So anyway, there's the police sergeant I know, and he looks at me like this, and I look at him like this, and I go, hey, am I nuts, or and he goes, yes, Kroger's, a year ago, all the gas was gone. Do you remember that too? I said, yeah, but no one else does. He goes, right? No one else does. What's wrong? Are we crazy? I said, no. Breathe. Now, like, there's some other explanation. If we two know this, and then about 10 years later, I hear this thing about, what's his name? That phenomenon. So, let's see. Laughing gas, my favorite. Yep. And there was this place when I lived in Tribeca, before they called it Tribeca, when it was just downtown. There were all of these. Oh, there was a thing called Job Lot. Before Lowe's, there was Job Lot. And this guy, he knew, he was going around America and finding companies going out of business, and he would just buy up their stuff. They called them job lots, lots. He'd buy up these lots. And he just had pallets everywhere. And he had this big store downtown, big space, like maybe 10,000 square foot, off of Duane Street, and so, because that area used to be an industrial area before it became Chambers Street and Reed and Duane, and which is just a couple blocks from where the World Trade Center was. Anyway, So, and just on the other side of Broadway from where Wall Street is, right? So anyway, I was living in right there where um, Hudson Street starts, right where Duane Park is, right? There's a place called Mohawk Electric. Let's see if we can find Mohawk Electric on Mr. Google. And that was Tesla's laboratory, right? And Grandpa Stahl owned that building, and he let me stay there forever. Not forever, but quite a long time. Until he died, and his son, you know, didn't want to take care of everything, so the other cousin got a bit of the real estate before it was worth really anything. Let us go to, yes, here we go. Mohawk Electric in New York City on Hudson Street. Wood Selleck Building, number 3638 Hudson Street. How many power plants are in New York? $2,015. Yep, that's it. Yeah. So go look at that. It kind of stories behind the building states at other points of interest that makes Manhattan fascinating. Yep, that's the building. There was no one in there. I had that whole freaking building by myself. Boy, did I have a good time. We had some serious parties in that sucker. New York at the age of 14. That talks about the guy who built it, Miles, yes. The firm in 1878. Charles Wood, Horn Wood and Slick. Cough drops, yep. Sales rooms, yep. But they don't talk about Tesla being there. He had the bottom and the ground floor. It was a big loading platform. They're not showing you that side of it. And that's where I kind of lived. Yep. And that was downtown architecture looked like that. And when 9/11 happened, all of those architectural things standing out were covered with feet and feet of asbestos and would just blow everywhere. It was like, so anyway. Oh, let's see where that. No, go back. Go there. Oh, look what they did to it. Oh, baby. Yes, they turned it into a hipster jungle. But it was fun when I was there. There was gigantic. Those big floors were just open. Anyway, so right down the street on the corner of Varick and Chambers, there was a restaurant supply place. You went in there, and they had these kitty whippets, that made. They had this whipped cream. You put cream into this thing. You close it up. You put one of those little charges. They were like little CO2 charges, and it would, put the nitrous oxide in that can, and then instead, if you didn't put cream in there, just run, and you breathe it in, and one of those things would put you on another planet for a good long time, 5-10 minutes, right? And then and my muscle memory, I did so many of those things that I was on another planet. I could just keep recharging the sucker, and one time I oh, here they come. Well, I got to go. The people who own this place have just showed up. Okay? Okay. Love you guys. And I'm about to run out of power, too.